Hello friends, welcome to episode 120 of the Shauna Stitches Podcast. I'm Shauna and this is my crafty channel where I talk about all the things that I've been working on lately. Today is October 7th of 2025. It is currently 10:30 a.m. and if I seem a bit out of it, I've been up since before 2 a.m. because I woke up and couldn't go back to sleep. But I'm recording on a Tuesday, which is not my normal schedule. I have had some extra days off of work. I attended a friend's wedding. So even though I haven't had a lot of sleep, I am not overly exhausted, which is great. If you look right down below in the About section, you should find links to everything I'm going to talk about today. You can also find links to everywhere that you can find me. That includes Instagram, Ravelry, Goodreads, and Ask Me Anything. I think there's some other links there too. I'm most active on Instagram, and I do update my Ravelry projects regularly. You can also find links to the specific project pages for Ravelry of the things that I'll be showing today. I am wearing my Exploration Station shawl. This is one of the Stephen West MusiKAL shawls from years ago, but I did not knit this as a mystery. This is before I even knew about the mysteries. So my colors were definitely planned, and I like them. It's a fairly large shawl. All of my colors are Knit Picks Stroll, and I thought that green went really well with my sweatshirt, so that's why I picked this one today. I don't remember all of the colors, but for sure the light gray is dove gray. I think the dark gray might be ash or cobblestone. I don't remember. Maybe that's pea green, and this is, I don't remember, Magnolia Heather? That's my best guess. It's all in my project page. I knit this from August 1st of 2020 until August 20th of 2020, and I distinctly remember that Glenn and I went on a camping trip and I was working on this while camping. But that's enough of old projects. Let's talk about new projects. If you watched my last episode, I finished a lot of Baubles by Stacey Lewis. She has, gosh, I don't know, 6 or 7 at least collections of bauble designs. And by baubles, I mean Christmas ornaments. And I have a whole lot more this week. And I'll take these out and show you. I'm not going to remember what day is what. And I will say, the bag I just showed you, none of these are the ones I showed you last time. So let me just string them up again here. So many. You know, while I am doing this and you're not really seeing much of anything, I am trying to figure out where I could buy some nice ornament hangers. Not like super expensive nice, but just nicer than your run-of-the-mill little flimsy metal ones. Do you know what I'm talking about? Just the ones that get all tangled together, those. Because these baubles are all gifts, and I would like to have some nicer hangers than these candy striped yarn ones. So if you know of any, I'm sure there's somebody on Etsy. I just have not had the time to look yet. So there's one. That one is just plain stockinette. And this one is a chevron pattern. Sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what they are due to the yarn choice. It doesn't work with all of the designs very well. But there is a reason for the yarn choice. There's a cable pattern. These are all gifts for my coworkers. And so this one I think is supposed to be Lacy Trees. Yes, that's what it is, but you can't really tell. So the yarn is Chicken Lady Fiber Arts in the LEO colorway. I really like this one. This one has twisted rib. Oh, it's so hard to see. I'll just kind of hold these ones up kind of all at the same time. And you can get an idea. Oh, I have to show this one specifically. I really like this one. And I don't think the camera's doing it any justice, but it's just a really nice lacy design. So I finished in total 20 baubles. I need to make probably, I'm thinking 11 more. Let me show you the yarn. This is what that LEO color looks like when it's not knit up. And I currently have the 21st bauble on the needles. Strings of yarn everywhere. And yeah, you can't tell. It's cables. It's very hard to see. The current bauble on the needle is the 12th bauble pattern from the very first set of baubles, which is just called 12 Days of Baubles, I think. And I have 4 more to make in this color, I think. And then the remainder will be in this color, which is called 911, the thin gold line, something like that. So I have stalled on these just a little bit, and I know that I need to keep working on them so I don't lose momentum. So that is probably going to be what I focus on after I'm done recording today, because in a whole day, like if I don't do much of anything else, I can get probably 3 baubles done. But on a work day, I'm maybe getting a few rows done, not much at all. So I definitely want to get those finished so that I can focus on some other things. The next finished object I have to show you is a languishing whip, but it's not one that I specifically talked about as in my whip wheel picked it. This, I think I showed you last time. I was way down here. So I had just a few inches of ribbing done, and I finished the entire thing, which means I knit an entire skein of yarn. Each end it's supposed to have 4 inches of ribbing. At the time I was knitting the first end, I didn't have a tape measure, and I eyeballed it, and it's more like 3 inches, but it's okay. And then you just knit a bunch of stockinette until you have about how much yarn you used for your beginning ribbing, and then you knit that much more ribbing again. As I was doing the bind off, I was in a car. I, for some reason, had just the tiniest scrap of a color called eggnog. These, both eggnog and the main color here, which is called Mandalorian oranges, is dyed by my friend Tammy, who used to dye and own Candy Skein yarn. She no longer dyes, and you can no longer buy the yarn unless it's in a shop somewhere. But it's just so weird. I made a pair of socks with the eggnog color years ago, and I have no idea why about a 2-gram scrap was in the project bag that I had this in, but thank goodness it was, because I ran out on the bind off and did not want to rip back far enough to get to where I could bind off all in one color. So you can see it. It's definitely not something that blends in well. If I would have been home and had that happen, I would have picked something closer, but I don't think it really matters at all. And certainly the way that I often wear this cowl, you would never even see it. And I'll show you how I like to wear this. So very much like a muscle burrow hat, how you have the 2 ends, I like to fold the ribbed portions together. And I did put the yellow on the outside, but you could just as easily flip it around. And that gives you something like this. And I think this is going to get caught on my hair, but I will try to show you. Oh, yep, definitely getting caught on my hair. So that is how I like to wear this cowl, and it's great because you can kind of pull it up if it's really cold. You can wear it where it's not folded in on itself and just kind of have it scrunched up a little bit more, and that's nice too, but I really like wearing it folded double. I feel like it insulates a little bit more from the wind, it keeps you warmer, and then you just don't have all this kind of up here either. It's more where you can pull it up if you want, but you don't have to. Either way, this is just such a fabulous pattern. It's simple, it's free, which is always great, but even better, and even better than a muscle burrow, it uses an entire skein of yarn, and you don't have to think about it. You don't need a second needle. I use just a 16-inch circular for the entire thing, for the cast on to the bind off, and it's just the perfect mindless knitting. So if you watched my last episode, I mentioned that I was taking this to a training that I was going to, and that is where I did the majority of this. I finished it in the car as we were headed home, and no, I was not driving. I drove there, but my coworker drove back. And I have one more finished object to show you, and this one is the project that I showed you that was my reviving an old whip project. And that is the Serene socks, which are a pair of socks that I cast on for my mom. Oh, I forgot to tell you, since this was an old project, let's see. I started this cowl October 28th of 2022, and I finished it September 25th of 2025. So 3 years to finish that. And back to the socks. I cast these on October 15th of 2024, and I just finished them this morning. I finished this toe right here. This second sock was difficult. I had already shown you where the yarn had a knot in it here, which is why that second blue stripe is so thin. But then down here, this stripe of orange had another knot. And luckily this one isn't as noticeable because the stripes are about the same width, whereas the normal orange stripe is bigger. And then the color sequence stayed the same. So thank goodness I had not attempted to try to make these match. They're very different. And yes, I'm thankful for that, because it would have been really heartbreaking to have found that first break in the yarn, and then even more so with the second one. And this is what I have left of the yarn. It is Ice Yarn's Magic Sock, which is a self-striping yarn. And as much as I'm complaining about those two knots, I have used a lot of the Ice Yarn's sock yarn, and it's one of my favorite sock yarns. It's very hard wearing. You know, some people would say it's not super soft, but it also is not rough to the point of like being unwearable or anything like that. It just really withstands wear. It's held up great over the years. Quick water break because my throat is irritated. Okay. I think that's all I have to say about that. I'm going to gift these to my mom. They were intended to be a Christmas gift last year. They will either be a Christmas gift this year, or I might give them to her early. It just depends on when I see her again. That is it for finished objects this podcast, but I do have some works in progress to show you. I guess I technically already showed you one, because this is a work in progress, and maybe I can show you the cables a little bit better. No, it just really, it's hard to see. The yarn is busy, and it certainly doesn't help. Plus, when it's not on a bauble, it makes it harder to see the pattern. Next, I have a new cast on, and I feel like I've been pretty good with not having spontaneous cast on so far this year, and I will say this one's not super spontaneous. However, it wasn't exactly planned either. And the reason I cast this on is because my friend is having their third baby boy due in, I think, March. So I cast on a lullaby blanket by Tusken Knits. I have never knit this pattern before, but it seems fairly straightforward and easy enough. I did cast on the crib size, and this is on a 40-inch needle, so it's a mess to show you, but it's not quite 40 inches, but I think that will be absolutely fine for a tiny baby. The yarns that I am using are Deep Stash. These have been in my stash for more than 10 years, I'm sure. In fact, let's take a look. So I was going to pull up a picture of the original project that I made with this yarn, and I forgot to do that. So it gives me an excuse to look it up. This was knit into a blanket called Rings of Change that I knit for my mom. There it is. So I cast on that blanket, which I will show you a picture of, May 14th of 2015 and finished it August 3rd of 2015. So yeah, 10 years. This has been in my stash. That was a good guess. It is Ice Yarns Magic Light. Yeah, there's the name. But unfortunately, the color names are not on here. And this being so old, I don't know if Ice Yarns is still making this. But at the time, I was an avid crocheter, and I loved this yarn for crochet. I will say I've been a bit spoiled by wool yarns. When I was exclusively a crocheter, I used only acrylic, and I didn't know any better. I don't know, it was just very common to almost exclusively crochet in acrylic, especially back then. I was going to say even back then. Maybe that has changed a little bit now, but I'm not so sure. I don't follow the crochet community near as much as I used to when that's all I did. But it was very common. Like Craft DK was a very popular one. I just found I really liked this line, which I have a couple of other colors in. And this one, I think I got this to make some hats for my coworkers. It's the same line, Ice Yarns Magic Light. It is all acrylic, and I don't know the colorway of this one. I think it's probably called Brown Shades or something similar to that. And this one is Copper Shades. I don't have it on the project page, but it's something called like Copper Shades Green or something like that. But anyway, I am using these two. This one is obviously my main color, and this is the little bit of garter stitch that you see between the sections. And so the brown, the garter stitch, is slowly fading. You can tell it is darker down here than it is up here. And then of course the other one is just kind of self-striping. This project is very hard to show because it's curling up, but it is giving me 70's couch vibes, and I'm not mad about it. I just hope that they like it. The people I'm making it for are so knit worthy. I have knit for their other two boys, and never have I ever given gifts to somebody or people who are so appreciative and understanding of the time that it takes, especially for people who are not crafters. And so they definitely deserve a third baby blanket. And depending on time, I would like to for sure make the other two boys a hat as well as this baby, and maybe mom and dad, because I don't think I've ever made mom and dad hats before. So that would be nice, but that's also very ambitious of me. So we'll see what I can get done. Okay, let's see. Back to my show notes because I'm going to lose my place. Okay, so that being said, I've showed you two finished languishing whips, and that meant that it is time to spin my whip wheel to see which project it's going to pick to be my next focus. If you've never seen my whip wheel, I entered almost all of my old languishing whips onto this wheel, and instead of trying to pick a project to work on, I spin the wheel and I let it decide for me, which has worked really well so far. I'm slowly working my way through my back catalog of whips while still working on new stuff, so it's a balance. Let's spin that wheel. Okay, so the whip wheel has picked my travel mode blanket. Is that what it's called? Travel mode? Yes, travel mode baby blanket by Suzanne Summer. This is going to be a little bit tricky to show because it's on some tried on tubing and it's on some needles. But you can see I have probably half or maybe even just a little over half of this baby blanket done. And if you are thinking anything like I was when I was starting that new Lullaby baby blanket, I was hoping this one would have worked. And honestly, if it had been a girl, I think this would have been great. And yes, I know colors are not exactly gender specific, but I don't know. I guess I like to play into those stereotypes a little bit. However, this could work for a boy or a girl, I think. This one though, I don't know. It's more orange than peach. It probably would have worked, but I don't know. I need to find a baby to give this one to when it's finished. But I will be very happy to have this done. I really enjoyed this project and I'm not exactly sure why I set it down whenever it was. I'm using a bunch of old acrylic stash. I have some Bernat Baby Sport in a white color. I have Lion Brand Pound of Love in a yellow, which is called Honeybee. And this one I love. This is the rainbow color, and it is Baby Bee Sweet Delight Prints in the color Sprinkles. And then a peachy color and a bluish teal. And then, I don't know if you saw it on there or not, but I have this one, which is not much left. It's another of the Bernat Baby Sports in the color, I don't know, because it's taped together and I can't see the label. But yeah, that was all just stash, and I don't even know why I cast this on. It wasn't like intended for anyone specific, and that's probably why it got put down. I will say I did make the travel mode, so the travel mode 2.0, it's a shawl. And so when I saw the baby blanket, I really enjoyed knitting the shawl and I decided to cast that on. So I'm currently working on this yellow stripe right here, and I'm gonna have to take some time to sit down with the pattern to actually figure out where I am. But it looks like I am attaching that to the rainbow section. My main issue is I do not have a, I guess, fifth color over there. And so I have the orange and the blue here and yellow. What was the other color supposed to be? I don't know. I'm really going to have to look at the pattern. So I'll make something work. But I started that in February of 2023. So it is definitely time to get that worked on. And I hope to have it finished sooner rather than later. However, I think I'm going to be prioritizing Baubles and that Lullaby blanket first. So we'll see how much work it gets done. You might notice two things I have not shown you in this episode: my Marled Magic blanket and my Pressed Flowers pullover. Neither of those have seen a single stitch of work in the last 2 weeks. And part of that's because I was out of town. The other part is because I was focused on Baubles and they just haven't gotten pulled out. Part of me thinks that if I just don't work on the Pressed Flowers pullover, that I can't possibly run out of yarn, which is true. I also can't possibly have a finished object. So that is the conundrum. But yeah, I do plan on working on those. I'm definitely not out of love with either of the projects. I've just focused on other things in the last 2 weeks. That is almost everything that I have to show you today, but I have one more whip, an exciting one, and you may have already seen my video where I deep dive into Clue 1 of Stephen West's current MusiKAL, which is the Mystery MusiKAL. But if you haven't, I do have a finished Clue 1 to show you, but I want to give you the opportunity to either look away, fast forward, whatever you need to do if you do not want to see clue 2. The good news is it's been out for, or clue 2, no, clue 1. We are only on clue 1. But the good news is it's been out for almost a week now. So you've probably been spoiled or finished it yourself. But I'm going to go ahead and show a finished clue 1 now. So if you don't want to see it, go ahead and look away. All right, there it is. And it's a bit hard to show because this middle scallop keeps wanting to fall down. But these are called scallops. And there are a total of 6 of them for clue 1. And clue 1 was not hard. The techniques in it are not hard at all. There was, well, it's super hard to see. There's a kind of lacy cast on there. Welts. I chose the brioche option, another welt. And then there is a lacy section here. I don't know if you can see the lace. Another welt. And that makes up one section. But the difficult part was getting them all together. And I can't tell you how many times I drop stitches because there are times where you only have 3 I-cord stitches on your needle. And it gets very easy when the needle's kind of heavy or slippery to just slip right out of the stitches. And then there is a lot of moving stitches from your working needle to a spare needle and back and forth. And there was one point, I don't remember which one it was, I was moving stitches from those needles back and forth, and right in one of these joins, kind of like there, I dropped stitches. And let me just say, I'm getting better with experience in fixing mistakes. And I've also kind of grown to learn that even if it's not 100% correct, sometimes you can fake it. So I managed to get the stitches picked up. In the end, I have just one less stitch than I'm supposed to have for the entire working stitches across the top, but that's not a big deal. I think I should be easily able to make that up with the next clue. I'm pretty sure the ones that I'm missing are going to be either right in this section or right in this section here. But yeah, thoughts on the first clue. It was tedious to do the scallop 6 times. When I first started, I thought we would be starting down here, and well, as we went up this way, I thought we were just going to do all 6 in one row, but obviously that's not how that played out. But yeah, I don't know what to think. I don't know. Part of me wants to believe that this is the bottom of the shawl, but we know with Steven that he always has surprises for us, and it's very possible. I mean, this could be going this direction, it could be going this direction, like you just never know what's going to happen. So it is exciting, it's fun to work on, I am enjoying it very much, even though things were a bit tedious and frustrating in the first clue. I'm hoping for a much calmer second clue. My colors, this is my lightest color, this is what I used for the welts. Actually, yes, so this is color A. No, this. I'll show them in the color that they are for the shawl because it went different than I expected. I thought this would be like the first color, but no, this is the first color. This is color A, so this is my main color. And you'll notice there is quite a lot of that in this clue. My color B is this one. And that is the welts. My color C is my pop of color, and that's this teal, which was not very easy to see in the shawl. It's there in the brioche, which isn't very opened up, but if you see the reverse side, you can see that that teal is the back color. And the teal is supposed to have, or the color C is supposed to have a kind of dedicated section later at some point, and so I'm excited for that. And then my color D is this orangey speckle that kind of incorporates both of these. So that is all of my colors, and I am liking them. I forgot to mention all of the yarns were dyed by Maria of Tusken Knits, who is no longer dyeing yarn anymore. And I was so lucky. I got all of these in mystery grab bags and had no idea what I was going to use them for, but they just happened to go together really well. And I think they work in this shawl perfectly so far. So that is truly all of the projects that have seen work in the last 2 weeks since I last talked to you. The next things that I have to talk to you about are the books that I've been reading. And this section is going to be very short because the knitting that I have been doing lately has not been very conducive to reading and knitting at the same time, which is one of my favorite hobbies. So I've had to like fit in reading time. Often while I'm eating lunch at work, I will open a Kindle book on my phone and read just a little bit, or just a couple pages while I am at home. I did finally finish a book called Bonbons and Burglars by Lisa Seifert. That was a book that I won from Goodreads as a Kindle giveaway, and it was a lighthearted murder mystery, but not my favorite lighthearted murder mystery. I'm not sure what the difference is, how I can tell you like some of those I really like and some I don't like. There was nothing particularly unlikable about this one. It was just, I don't know, difficult to get through. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't a bad book. It just wasn't an amazing book. This was the 5th in a series, and there is no part of me that wants to go back and read the first 4 or to read number 6 if there is a 6th. It was fine. Certainly you wouldn't need to have read the first 4 to understand this one. I don't think that that was at all part of the reason why I rated it what I did. It just wasn't that exciting. It's this girl who, I don't know the backstory for this. She inherits a mansion. And then she also inherits a cupcake bakery, and all of the guys in the town who are interested in her are millionaires or billionaires. I don't know. Maybe that's why I didn't like it. Just very unrealistic. And I don't expect all books to be realistic, but come on now. And that's the only one that I have finished, but I am reading Outlive: The Science and Art of Longevity by Peter Attia. Peter Attia is a doctor, and I can't remember where I first saw him, but I know it was a YouTube podcast based on health or wellness, fitness, something in that genre. And I heard Peter Attia speak and thought he was interesting. He does have a dedicated podcast, and I can't remember for sure if it's YouTube based or like audio based, or maybe he has both. I haven't specifically watched a lot of his videos, but I do see him pop up on YouTube here and there. But this book is fairly new. I want to say it was published around 2023, maybe even 2024. And it is fairly science heavy, but not in a way where it's too science heavy, if that makes any sense. It is based in science, but it is also broken down to a level that someone who is not schooled in science at all can understand. And it's quite interesting. I think I'm on chapter 6, which is about 14% of the way through the book. I'm hoping that he's laying the groundwork for the science stuff now, which seems to be, and then we get into some of the more practical application stuff later. I'm very excited to read that part, but for now I'm going to make my way through the science and just suffer through. Other than that, I am listening to an audiobook that I mentioned last time by Ina Garten, which is Be Ready When the Luck Happens. Unfortunately, I think I have 2 days left on my audiobook loan, and I'm not going to finish it in those 2 days. And there is already somebody else in line to have it, so I can't seem to put it on hold again. But I'm hoping that if and when I get it again, that I'll be able to pick up where I left off. I'm not sure, but that's my hope. And the other one that I am still reading, which I have not read a single page in the last 2 weeks, is Wicked Dreams by Lisa Jackson and Nancy Bush. I just have not read it, but I need to get back into it because I was enjoying it. Anyway, life stuff. It has been a busy 2+ weeks. I went out of town for a week for training, which was 5.5 hours each way, and it was a good training. I, of course, got my cowl finished, which was great, and spent some time with a coworker who I haven't spent a lot of time with, and that was wonderful. I got to eat at a very fancy, nice restaurant in Ashland, Oregon that is owned by Glenn's cousin's, Glenn is my husband, by the way, Glenn's cousin's fiance. And I guess they both own it, but he's the main chef, and it's called Peerless. And so that was really fun. I took my coworker there, and it's not often that I get to eat at a fancy-ish restaurant, but I really enjoyed it. Then just on Saturday, I went to my best friend's wedding, and that was also a long drive each way and made for a very long day, but she was a beautiful bride and we had a really good time. So very excited and happy for her, and that's why I had extra days off of work, because I just didn't know exactly what was going to be going on both before and after the wedding, and if she would need me for anything. Turns out she didn't, which just meant I had more time at home and more knitting time, but I am not going to complain about that one little bit. Oh, on that note, I did dress up for the wedding, of course, as you do, and finally got to wear my, what was it called? My shawl. Oh goodness. No, it's not a shawl. It's a shrug. Hold on. That's it. Pappas Shrug by Midori Hirose. I'll put a picture in of that. Overall, I thought the shrug worked out really well. It is super warm because as it turned evening, it was an outdoor wedding, outdoor reception, and it's October, so it was getting pretty chilly. And as I changed back into my normal clothes, which was also done outdoors because that's where we were, I took that shrug off and immediately felt the cold that I was not feeling at all while I was wearing it. So on that, it was wonderful. I would wear it again. The only feedback, negative kind of thing that I have to say is that it kind of kept wanting to come off of my shoulders. And I'm not sure if there's anything I could have done to prevent that. I thought maybe possibly if I wouldn't have done a stretchy bind off, but then I would worry that it would be too tight. And certainly like that circumference that goes around where it would go, you know, around my neck, around my arms, and then down around my back and, you know, up the other side. If that was too tight, you know, that wouldn't work at all. So I'm not sure that a tighter bind off would be a good answer, but if you have any thoughts on what might possibly have improved that, I would love to hear them. That being said, I would definitely make it again. I would wear it again over and over again. It was wonderful. I don't know, also, I might not have made the extra stitches. I did make it larger than the pattern called for because I'm not a small person, but as the evening went on, it seemed like it kind of stretched a bit and the sleeves kind of came down to about here. Not that that was a bad thing at all. It was meant to be about there, I guess, per the pattern, and a lot of people said when they made it to the size of the pattern, it came up to their elbow, which I think also would have been fine. Anyway, I did enjoy that pattern. I would make it again, and I highly encourage you, if you're looking for something a bit dressier to wear with, you know, a dress for a wedding, for anything like that, that pattern is fast and pretty easy, other than the cast on was a bit confusing, but it made for a very good wedding shawl. And I got lots of compliments on my dress and my sweater, so that's always a bonus. I think that's about all of the life stuff that I have to share with you today, and I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So thank you so much for joining me today. I do appreciate each and every one of you. I forgot to mention there are so many new subscribers, so if you are one of those new people, thank you so much for deciding to stick around and check out a regular episode. I know many of you have come over because of the Stephen West Clue 1 video, so I do more than just Stephen West knits, but I do those as well. And thank you for all the returning viewers. I appreciate you just as much. I will see you again soon. And until then, bye.